Hi, my name is Ben Plessier and I am a fervent user of Wappler. With this video I will create an admin dashboard. This is where site administrators are able to administer products and orders. That is, for the moment. Further down the track I will add more features. For now, I want to keep as simple and logical as possible. We left the project off where we have the public-facing index page, a main layout page, database with tables, and server-side CRUD actions. The time has come to create a module where these CRUD actions can be administered. To do this, I first create a layout page which I call admin. Then I create a folder which is called dashboard. Inside the new folder I create files for index, categories, products, customers, and orders. So far, these are all empty files. I'll go ahead and add a heading to each of these files so that we are easy to recognize. For each page I add a fluid container. Inside the container, a row and a column. Inside the column, a heading. The default heading text is changed to the name of the file. I make this an H2, simply because I will be creating an H1 in the admin layout page. Save the file as I go. This process is repeated for each of the pages. I have finished adding the headings to the remaining content pages. I'll now tackle the layout page. Please keep in mind that I have tried to keep the process as simple as possible at this stage of the tutorial. This means that I concentrate on the mechanics rather than visual effects. My first step is to create a main region. I now move the div containing the content inside the main region. This is a personal choice that will come on handy down the track. At the top of the page, I place a header. Inside the header I place a fluid container. Inside the container come the usual row and column. Inside the column, I add a flex container. As you will see, a flex container is used to easily position the items, called flex items, within the container. Inside the flex container, I place a button and a heading and a second button. I give it a background color of light. To the flex container. I have set this to show space around. This was not my intention and will change this a bit further on. On to the first button. Here I remove the button text and place an icon in its place. The button also gets a recognizable ID. If have named the ID, Show Sidebar. This gives the clue that clicking on this button will show a sidebar. The heading gets the name of our project. The second button gets the text of Logout. The text is preceded by a logout icon. Now to tidy things up. I select the icon inside the first button and resize it. I go back to the second button and give it the ID that I had forgotten to give it. The logout button gets the sizing treatment. Lastly, I rectify an earlier mistake and change the position of the flex items. Now for the sidebar. I start with the Wappler's left panel collapse to give me more space. I have also closed the content pages and saved the layout page. Here I right-click on Main. This allows me to add an off-canvas component to the page. Make sure that the component comes after the main element. I give the component a background color and remove the borders. You can change this later on if you wish. In the off-canvas header, I remove the heading. This has the effect that the close button moves to the left. To see why this is happening, I go to the Styles panel. Here I see that the header is a flex container with a space between alignment. Unfortunately, Wappler has no inherent way to fix this. Fortunately, Wappler is flexible enough to solve the problem. I go to the Bootstrap documentation, down to Utilities. I choose the section for Flex Justify Content. I see and copy, Justify Content End. Back in Wappler, I add the class to the header and the problem is resolved. The next step is to add menu items to the off-canvas body. I first remove the paragraph. Using the off-canvas body as the container, I add the usuals, a row and a column. Inside the column, I add a navigation bar from the Blocks panel. This gets a bit fiddly, but I want to get rid of the navbar brand and the navbar toggler. As you can see, I have finally managed to do just that. Now for the collapse part. We do not need the navigation bar to be collapsed, we only want the navigation items. I move the navbar nav to inside the navbar and delete the navbar collapse. As you can see, the navigation bar is horizontally aligned. We need this to be a vertical navigation bar. For this I go down to Flex Flow and change the direction to vertical. The menu items need to be renamed. So I go ahead and do that. The index page gets the name of Dashboard. This is for want of a better name. Then come the names of the other content pages that we created. For this, I will need a couple of extra menu items. Duplication the last item is probably the fastest way. Next, the menu items need to be linked to their respective pages. This is done by using the routes picker. Now, I want the dashboard page to appear when the URL points to the dashboard directory. In other words, I do not want it linked to index. So I remove the index part. Problem now is that there is no route for the directory without index. To rectify this, I go to the routing panel and remove the index part. I'll also rectify a typing error. The last tweak to the navigation bar is not mandatory. The navigation bar will function perfectly as is. The thing is, that I would like this section to perform as a single-page app. My views on traditional versus single-page apps are very clear. Use a traditional web application if the application is public-facing and benefits from search engine discovery and referrals. Use a single-page application when the application exposes rich user interface with many features. I'll now descend from the pulpit. The way to make this a single-page application using Wappler is a single tick in the internal checkbox. This is repeated for each of the menu items. Now, the off equals canvas component is hidden by default. This is where we make use of the first button in the header. Selecting the button, I add an action toggle choosing off canvas. Off canvas 1 is the component that is selected. Let's now test what we have done so far, in a browser. First, I save the file. Subsequently, I open the browser only to find that the file cannot be found. This error is because we are trying to view the layout page for which there is no route. To have done this properly, we would have had to view one of the content pages. Never mind, I'll adjust the URL to show the dashboard. And there we have it. Clicking on the Show Sidebar button shows the off-canvas component, just as planned. Choosing one of the menu items only changes the URL, nothing else seems to have changed. Problem number 1. The off-canvas should have been hidden when a menu item has been chosen. Furthermore, for the large view I would like the off-canvas component to turn into a fixed sidebar and for the backdrop to not be there. Once the component has been hidden, we see that the correct page content has appeared. For large screens with a fixed sidebar, this content should be visible. Let's see what happens in a mobile view. The only problem here is the first problem that was mentioned, that of the component not hiding. Back in Wappler, I select the flex container that contains the menu items. I go down to Dynamic Attributes where I choose the mouse on click event. For the action, I choose to hide the off-canvas component. For the next part, I could have chosen to go to the Design and/or the Styles tab. Instead, I open the styles.css file. Here I paste the style rules that I had created during a pause in the recording. Don't worry, I will leave the code below. The first 2 lines set a value to a couple of variables. The following 3 rules set the height of the header and the top margin for the main content. From line 14 on, the style rules are set for larger screens. Note that all of the selectors are prefixed with #admin. #admin is the name of the ID of the app. This is done so that it will not interfere with styles for the public-facing part of the app. On second thoughts, let me change the height of the header to 50 pixels. Save the file and we are done with the style rules. There are still a few issues facing us for the layout page. First, I change the header to be fixed to the top at all times. Second, the Show the Sidebar component should not be shown on a laptop and above. Thirdly, the same goes for the component close button. Unfortunately, this is not catered for in Wappler. Never mind, I copy the class from the other button and apply it to the close button. A last test shows that all is functioning as wanted. And that is it for the admin panel. In the next video, I will be introducing the CRUD actions for the categories page. This will allow us to create, read, update and delete the categories. I hope to see you there. Thank you for watching.